Right, so I've decided to make a video on how I make a Pontic or Pontic Lyra or a Kemenche, whatever you want to call it. I'm not actually going to make it, but I've got a lot of wood that I left over from when I used to make them over 5 years ago. I made over 50 instruments, sold them all over the world. Enjoyed making them, enjoyed meeting musicians, people of different walks of life that are interested in the instrument, and I just kept making them. I tried one, made one, and there was interest, so I just kept making them. So I don't make them anymore, mainly do repairs, but I've got some leftover wood. If people are interested in how the instrument's made, basically you need hardwood. You will either find or purchase a piece of hardwood, either usually in I don't know, about an inch thick or whatever it is. You'll have to cut it down. The way I test if it's a good piece of wood is usually if it's about an inch wide. I just tap it with my knuckle, and if it makes a nice ping, usually I've heard that means it's a good piece of wood for musically. It's a good piece of wood. I think I read that somewhere, so I go by that method anyway. But traditionally, you got mulberry. This piece of wood here I got from a wood yard. It was a block of wood about an inch wide and about, I don't know, 2 feet long. It's called Osage orange, but it's a type of mulberry. So that's a nice piece of wood to be making it with. It actually was bright yellow when it was cut. It was freshly cut about 4 years ago, this piece, but now it's discoloured into brown. But mulberry generally is a yellowy browny colour. This one's red gum. It's widely available in Australia, so I've made a lot of instruments with this. It's sort of a hit and miss, but because it's very cheap, easily available, I've gone with that. Again, that's mulberry or Osage orange. That's the body of the instrument. So this is the bottom bit. These are the sides. So you will put 2 sides on like that. So the sides are usually you will use a device such as this to measure the thickness. You'd want to get it down to about 2 to 3 mils, the thickness of the side and the bottom, which almost allows it to bend really. Even though this is a hard wood, when it gets down to about 2 mils, you can just bend it. So you use a belt sander to plane that down. To cut the wood, you need a bandsaw, something I don't have, so I get it done at a wood yard. The end of the instrument is the curved bit, is this bit here. Now this used to be a block of wood about, say, 3 inches, actually it could be 4 or 5 inches wide, depending on what sort of instrument you want to make. And from there to there is about 2 inches. So basically to cut this up, you'll need a miter saw. I mean, there's different ways of doing it. This is hard wood. So I usually use a miter saw and then use chisels. I don't have room for extravagant and expensive equipment, so I just do mine in a little area in my backyard. So a lot of my instruments are mostly handmade, and I use a lot of chiseling and a lot of files. So anyway, it comes down to this. If you have a look on the sides, a lot of luthiers will just stick them straight on there without this little indentation. I put this little indentation here to get the side of the piece of wood like that, and I glue it. But some of the luthiers, they don't do this. They just stick it straight on a flat surface, and then they'll just file the rest of it away. But anyway, that's the end of it, and that will be glued down with a type of glue which I'll show you in a minute. The other side is also hardwood. This one's red gum. You can tell by the colour it's red. You don't have to use all the same wood. but I generally try and keep it the same. But anyway, this is red gum. The other part is this, the head of the instrument. Now this, from there to there, is about, well, depends how long you want the instrument to be, but you measure it. This is all cut out with a bandsaw or a chisel or whatever you use, and you get that. You got to cut that around like that, so it looks. Try and get it down the middle as symmetrical as possible. And again, I put those little indentations here so that the sides of the instrument, can just glue in there like that, and I glue them in and then file them away with a belt sander. So that first thing you do is glue that to the bottom. Glue this to the bottom. Obviously there's a line down the middle to give you the symmetry. Once that's glued in, you can cut these to shape, or to length, sorry. Put them in there, put the other one in there, and that will, sorry about the movement of the camera, but that'll basically get you the side there, like that, and you do it on both sides. The glue I use is first of all, it comes as a solid, but you have to melt it. This is rabbit hide glue, and you can also use fish crystals as well. Fish glue is a bit more expensive. Rabbit's fine. You just melt it up. It's so it's hot, and I think the melting point's about 55 degrees. And you just brush it on with a brush. The bottom, you've got to put some on the bottom, got to put some on the sides, and then glue it in, and you use clamps to keep it all together. That's the body. The tailpiece is a piece of hardwood. This is African wengi, and basically I just file them away to the shape of a tailpiece. So I cut them to size like that. Again, I get mine done at a wood yard. He cuts it up like that. He gives it to me like that, and I just get the shape with files. That's the fingerboard. Again, wengi. That looks really nice once it's polished up. Again, I get it cut up about a bit thinner than the tailpiece, but again, this can't bend. That's why you use more dense wood for the fingerboard, because you don't want it to bend as you're coming down with your fingers. So that's pretty much raw, and you can actually just see the cutting marks. And then you've got the soundboard. Now the soundboard comes in a piece about, I think it's about 6 mils thick. I'm not sure exactly, probably 5 or 6. It comes as a piece like this, and you can see the lines. Not sure if you can see the lines, but usually you get narrower lines on one side and wider lines on the other. Usually you put the ZIL side is the narrower, more compact lines, and then they say that the different width of the lines of the wood gives you a different sound. So you get that like that. You have to use a belt sander to get that down to about 2 mils. I've got one here, which I've got ready to go. That's about 2 mils there. That one I actually stuck on an instrument, but it didn't quite stick on properly, and I think it broke. But I managed to salvage it. I'm going to put that on an instrument if I ever make another one. The way you get the shape of this, you can see the glue there. That's the rabbit hide glue. I can sand that back and reuse it. Okay, so the way you get the shape, because it's when it sits on the instrument, you can see it. I've got an instrument here. There's a curve here, right? And the way this sits on like that, the way you get it to bend without breaking is you soak this in some warm or hot water for about 15 minutes. Let it absorb as much water as it can. And then you get a PVC pipe or anything that's sort of the same shape as this, and you tie it. You get some string or rope, and you just tie it on there while it's still damp, and you leave it there overnight or a couple of hours till it's dry, and it pretty much comes out like that. And when you put it on, it's still got a little bit of give on it as well. And once you've put it on there, and you've got the glue to keep it on during the drying process, you get some rope and you tie it around. Different ways of doing it. You can use sticky tape if you like, and then you leave it on till it dries, a couple of hours or 24 hours. And that's it really. Last thing is when you finish the instrument, I use shellac. I don't know if anyone's seen shellac crystals, but that's them there. I think it comes from a tree, from an instrument. An insect. I think from out of a tree, or just from an insect. And what you do is you dissolve this in methylated spirits into you dissolve it completely, and then you brush it onto the instrument. So you don't want to use satin or gloss painted on, because they say it can keep the music or the sound of the sound in the instrument. This one, they say, they use this for violins as well, and that works really well. You dissolve it, you put a coat on, you sand it back with about 400 grit. You put another coat. You keep doing that about 4 or 5 times, and you'll get the same gloss as you do with a gloss, a painty gloss, the ones that you use for the paint. So anyway, that's how I make my instruments. That's all the stuff you need. It'll probably take you, depending on how many tools you've got, roughly 70 hours it used to take me to make an instrument. So to all the people out there who are purchasing an instrument from someone who does it from home and doesn't mass produce them, like some of the I think online, that some of the instruments there are mass produced, just be aware that a lot of work goes into these things, and a lot of people try and get a good price, but just be aware that these instruments do take a lot of time to make, and if you're getting one for under 500 Australian dollars or even 400, don't bargain too hard, because you're insulting the luthier. It's a lot of work. I know a lot of people in Greece are charging well over $1,000 for an instrument, and rightly so. But yeah, I mean, depending on the instrument, if it doesn't play that well, you can bring the price down. But anyway, I don't worry about that anymore, because I don't make them anymore. But I just thought I'd let people know that when you're buying one, just be respectful of the luthier if you're buying it off a luthier. That's all I'm trying to say. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and look forward to any comments.